Hi, welcome to Living in El Paso, Texas. My name is John Pena, and in this episode, we're going to do kind of like a what's going on in El Paso event, kind of end of April, and I've got three things for you. Number one, there's a really cool development happening downtown with one of our historic buildings. Number two, there is some very interesting news about property taxes. And number three, we're going to talk a little bit about solar power capacity in El Paso. I mean, we are the Sun City after all. So, with all of that, thank you so much for watching the channel. If you or somebody that you know is looking to buy, sell, or invest in El Paso, we would be greatly honored if you would consider reaching out to us for those real estate needs. We are so excited to have kind of grown into Pena El Paso Realty Group now, and so we're pretty excited about the future and looking to help as many folks as we can. So without further ado, let's go ahead and jump in to see what's going on in El Paso right now. How about the Kress Building downtown? I love all the architecture downtown. I love all the Trost buildings. I mean, it's awesome. I think our downtown is amazing, and I think it has a lot of potential to blossom into more of a downtown living type of vibe. You know, there's a lot of cities. When I was living in Kansas City, for instance, the downtown was pretty barren, and then all of a sudden these developers came in. They turned a lot of abandoned buildings into like these cool lofts, and then, you know, grocery stores and restaurants, coffee shops, all of that kind of moved in, and it really revitalized the downtown. You know, now the downtown is a thriving area of the city. I think there's a lot of that potential in the El Paso downtown. I mean, everybody knows that there's kind of, it almost feels like two separate downtowns. You know, you have kind of the front downtown, closer to Interstate 10, in San Jacinto Plaza, the plaza, you know, all the hotels, and it's super, super nice. And then you have kind of the downtown that goes from kind of the plaza back to the border, essentially, and a lot of those buildings are older, including the Kress Building, but they haven't kind of flourished, and I think that's going to change. And so the Kress Building is actually going to become, according to the El Paso Times, is going to become a food hall. Now, I'll talk about that in a second. Real quick, Kress Building was completed in 1938. It had an extensive interior renovation in 1955. It's about 84 years old, and it's been long vacant, right? Kind of an Art Deco decorative exterior that you've all probably seen. Otherwise, you can check out this footage. And it's been owned by Paul Foster for the last 3 years. So, what they're going to do with the Kress Building is they're going to turn it into a food hall on the first floor. It's about 15,000 square feet. The second floor is going to become kind of like an events center. And then the basement, I think this is really cool. There's a basement, and they're going to connect, they're going to make a tunnel from the Kress Building underneath Oregon Street over to the Hotel Pioneer Plaza park space, and basically they're going to use the basement to do it like a spa kind of salon. So this is pretty cool, I think. They're expected to begin this summer. It's supposed to take about 2 years at a cost at about $18.4 million, with about $3 million to that tunnel under Oregon Street. And so, now honestly, I didn't know what a food hall was. Like, that makes me think about like a food court in a mall, and I think it's kind of like that, but just maybe a little bit hipper and fancier maybe. But supposedly a food hall is kind of like a popular idea in other cities. It'll basically feature, this is great, local food offerings with no national franchised brands. I think that's awesome. So they're looking for vendors that are, quote, up and coming and show promise and potential and want to further develop their product. It's going to be located on that main floor, and they say they're going to have around maybe 12 food vendors in there, and interspersed between them, they're going to have kind of like small local retail vendors. So, a key feature to be renovated and replaced, this is cool, will be a lunch counter with a soda fountain. Now, if you're younger, you may be like, what is a soda fountain? I'll throw up an image right here, but these were popular kind of back in the day, and it sounds like the food hall actually had a soda fountain. And kind of like a soda fountain, they're also gonna have a bar in this space as well for alcoholic beverages. So, pretty cool. The 15,000 square foot second floor was going to be more for like an events center. This could be like various events, business meetings, weddings, you know, what have you. Oh yeah, they're also talking about having like a small private viewing room for like sports games, maybe even games like they, you know, think Dave and Buster's, you know. And then again, like I said, that 15,000 square foot basement is going to be a spa and salon connected to the Plaza Pioneer Park Hotel, but open to the public. So finally, they're going to try to restore and basically preserve all of the historical elements. I mean, there's a lot of really cool stuff on the outside of the building, and I imagine there's a lot of pretty cool stuff on the inside of the building, and so they're going to try to preserve a lot of that. So I thought it was a pretty interesting use of space downtown, and it goes back to what I was saying in the beginning. You know, if you're going to try to invite people to live in either condos, apartments, you know, kind of downtown urban living, well then you need to have amenities there for them. You know, you need to have food, you need to have, there's plenty of restaurants, I suppose, and bars and things like that. But if we start to see, and I have no idea, but if we start to see El Paso push kind of downtown living, I suspect, you know, we're gonna see future development, and I find it super, super interesting. I hope you do too. And I wanted to talk about this very, very interesting news article that El Paso Times just put out. City Council directs city manager to develop tax relief plan for property owners. So we've been talking about this, but basically in the beginning of April, most of us got our updated appraisal reports, and unfortunately for most of us, we saw our appraised value climb significantly, meaning, of course, that we are going to pay more in property taxes. So, City Council recently voted unanimously, amazing, to direct Tommy Gonzalez to come up with a plan to decrease the city's property tax rate. So what they're saying here is that there's the potential that we're actually going to lower the property tax rate in El Paso, which I know is good news to everybody. The plan will be part of the 2023 fiscal budget plan. Currently, the city's property tax rate is 0.907301 per $100, okay? Now, if we decrease that number, that property tax rate, like I said, we're all gonna be a little happier because we're gonna pay less in property taxes. So now the El Paso Central Appraisal District says that it's, you know, they're justifying why these prices have gone up. They're saying, look, it's a hot market as prices and commodities continue to rise because of inflation and supply chain issue. I would add to that, we're seeing our property values raised because the real estate market is so hot that most buyers are having to pay $20,000, $30,000, $40,000, $50,000 over the asking price, and then those inflated prices, you know, get taken into account, and voila, we end up with higher property tax evaluations. So the overall market value of all the single family homes in El Paso increased 25% this year to a total of $43 billion. I mean, that's something, you know. The overall market value of all the single family homes increased 25% in just 1 year. Now this is probably great news in some regards to the city, the school districts, you know, the community college, all those taxing entities, because they're going to see, you know, a significantly higher amount of money coming to them. But like I said, for the homeowner, this is not ideal at all. And so last year, speaking about people not being too pumped about, you know, increased appraisal values, last year about 28,000 people filed a protest to get their evaluation, their appraised value changed. So it would have been super interesting if they would have like told us of those 28,000, how many people were successful in their protest. But I'd love, if you're watching this video and you've protested your appraised value here in El Paso, I'd love for you in the comments to put down whether or not you were successful or not, and maybe how much you were able to have them trim it off. So property taxes are always a pretty interesting topic here in El Paso, but I thought this was an amazing article starting to say that, hey, look, the city council, they're starting to take notice and realize, like, okay, El Paso's great, but what's not so great are these pretty significant property taxes that we all pay. And I'm of course of the opinion that yes, you get what you pay for, meaning yeah, we have great schools, roads here, fire, police, all of that. We want those services, but at the same time, if our property values are going to increase so dramatically, you know, it doesn't seemingly sound fair that, you know, our property tax rate stays the same as our, you know, inflated home values continue to climb. So interesting little news there from the El Paso Times. Thank you to them. Because obviously we live in the Sun City and you would think that solar would be a fantastic option, and it is, but found a recent article that kind of sheds a little bit of light on maybe where El Paso stands on it. So El Paso actually trails San Antonio and Albuquerque in solar capacity per person. So at the end of 2021, El Paso had just over 70 megawatts of installed solar capacity, which is about 103 watts per person. Now, San Antonio had 355 megawatts with about 247 watts per person, which is substantially more here. And so between 2017 and 2021, El Paso nearly doubled its installed solar capacity from about 37 megawatts to just over 70. So that's pretty awesome in the last 4 years. With nearly 300 days of sun, El Paso's solar potential is quote unquote practically limitless. And so this, you know, solar does it makes a lot of sense in the Sun City, right? So El Paso ranks 4th in Texas behind San Antonio, Austin, and Houston. El Paso Electric owns solar facilities with 8 megawatts as of 2020, and this is really interesting. They buy 107 megawatts of solar through power purchase agreements. What I think this means is that and again, don't quote me on this, I hope I'm right, because I think this is the best way that solar works for consumers, but that essentially, let's say that I have solar panels on my home, and if I generate more power than I use, then that extra energy that I've essentially created with my solar panels can be sold back to El Paso Electric. So that is pretty awesome. And so like I said, if that is how it works here in El Paso, and by the way, if you know the answer to that question, is that how it works? Please leave a comment below and I would be very grateful. So El Paso Electric though, this is great. They have a goal of 80% being 80% carbon free by 2035. So solar is a really interesting topic. We sold a house to a gentleman, a really nice house, and it had a complete solar. It had the Tesla solar panels, and it had 3 Tesla, what do they call them? The power packs, essentially. So he had 3 of these power packs in his garage. He had 2 electric vehicle connections, and so, you know, it's likely that electric prices are not going to go down anytime soon. I think you would be naive to think that somehow utility prices are going to go down. So since utility prices aren't going to go down, having a renewable energy source like solar in some place like El Paso seemingly makes a lot of sense. So would be super curious about what you think, and please comment below, and until next time, we'll see you later.